How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with our next episode, titled Crying in the Shower, Smiling at Dinner. I am your co-host, Neel and Amit.
And I am Amit Majathia, for those of you, the three of you that have forgotten me by now.
Yeah, sorry we keep introducing ourselves, but to any new listeners out there, hopefully joining us. That way you know us a little bit more, at least our names anyways. So today is our first episode that we're going to be recording with a guest who is near and dear to my heart and Amit's heart. She put a ring on it for those who watching it. No,
Just
it's
to
my
be clear,
wife.
that was Neil's hand.
Yeah,
Just before this gets a little weird.
Yeah. Well, no,
Weirder.
Introducing my wife, RJ. Say hi to the people.
Hi.
Even though you're our strongest listener right now. I'm just kidding.
We've got our audience right here in this podcast.
Yeah, this is the three people that we keep talking about. It's just us, which is,
Y'all thought it was three more.
That joke's gonna ride us into the end of the season, isn't it?
Eventually, we're just gonna end up manifesting it, where we really will have three people
No,
listening at the end of the season.
No. We really thank all of you out there that have been listening. We do know that more people than us have been listening. I just want to put that out there before everyone else is like, "Wait, what about us?" We are not gonna recognize that, please.
Appreciate y'all listening, and if you really are listening, feel free to drop a comment so we know that you're still listening.
Yeah, please.
Oh man. So the crying in the shower, smiling at dinner. I think this is a concept that the three of us have talked about in some way, shape, or form. Probably not in this sort of context, or nor in this sort of platform. But I think it's near and dear. And RJ, just so you know, this was like an episode that I was advocating for you to be on, because I thought you were a really, really good fit for this idea of having to show up a certain way, depending on the situation, either because you don't know what to do or how to do it, or because you don't feel safe enough to do it in that moment or in that situation, that space. So I think, for the sake of easing you into this conversation and to the whole platform itself, maybe one of us will start with, you know what? Fuck that. Not one of us. Neel, since this is your wife, you get to ease her into it. So, sir, when you hear, or tell us about what crying in the shower, smiling at dinner means to you, and let's keep the sexual references to a minimum, please.
That's a weird title to have any sort of sexual references to. So I will, if people knew what we talked about prior to starting the show, like 15 minutes prior to it. Yeah.
We were talking about kitchery, dude. That's what we were talking about.
We were talking about you and your wife, and we're going to just leave it at that.
Why would you like drop your voice down a few octaves to me? You made it even weird. Like, it wasn't so weird, and then you went like, you and your wife. Like, you made it really fucking weird.
Sorry, Nurali, again. This is the second episode that we're saying sorry to you, or at least I am. Anyways, crying in the shower and smiling at dinner, what it means to me is exactly what you started stating. Just for me personally, it's more of a having to put up a facade when you're feeling hurt. I know many a times, definitely in my life, like, yeah, we know that it's hard for me to talk about stuff in general anyways. So that kind of right. That kind of holds true to me and my being, essentially, of whatever I'm feeling or however I was feeling in certain instances, that you show up with a not quote unquote smile on your face, but at least you put on a facade, you false face, whatever you're going through really doesn't matter, or even trying to speak on it doesn't really matter. So what do? Is you just kind of tell yourself you're okay, but tell everyone on the outside that you're okay. Um, I know a lot of instances in my life it's been that way. Whether it's family relationships or friends, or even personal relationships in terms of like dating and things like that. So um you know it's one of those things. And uh, one of the first stories I can remember right off the bat is when my parents decided to move to Philadelphia.
Mm.
I was a sophomore in college, and the person I was dating at the time, and yes, my wife knows this, so don't come at me again. All right, I have to keep warning people not to come at me, but my wife knows this. But anyways, it was not my wife at the time, but
Boo! We want the tea.
yeah, the person, the person I was dating, yeah, like when my parents decided to move, it really, really pissed me off, so to speak, because they were moving for work, and for my sister, and that's another topic we can get into another time. But um, my parents were going 10 and a half hours away. I went to school at University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. Um, hey, you listen, we shouted out your high school. We're gonna shout out my
No,
university.
absolutely. I'm gonna throw
um,
UIC in there somewhere. Don't worry.
we shouted out UIC plenty of times, but no, big ups to UIC. Anyways, um, but yeah, they were 10 and a half hours away, and I just remember the day, like I met my parents kind of in the middle before they had kind of moved away, and it was a town called Florence that I used to live in. Um, Met up with them at a mall. My dad was driving the U-Haul, left me with the car. Um, and I just met them up in a parking lot for like 20 minutes. I had driven like an hour and a half, and I knew that they had to get going or whatever. So met them up for 20 minutes, and it was just kind of like, goodbye. I'll see you in break whenever there was a longer break, right? So 10 and a half hours for a college student is all only times I could come to see my parents was big breaks, like fall break or winter break,
Mhm.
summer break, things like that. Um, but yeah, on my drive back, I just super pissed, but I never said anything to them, obviously, because I knew they're going there to find work, to kind of make sure that our family's still taken care of, all that stuff. Um, but that fucking sucked. That fucking just like it pissed me off so much that like you're leaving me at a time when I felt very like I need my parents around. At least, 2.5 hours is close enough, where I could see them
Significant
every
amount of
other
time.
weekend. Right. Like
Yeah.
I used to visit them every month or so, at least once. But just being there and having them there it's totally different than getting through college basically on your own terms, right? So,
Right.
yeah, like I never told them, I never told my girlfriend at the time, I never told my friends even then at the time, like that. It just really fucking irked me that they just kind of left, and I felt abandoned, so to
Mm.
speak. And
Mhm.
they weren't abandoning me, I know that, but it was just one of those things. Um, Now every time when I came back to Colombia, like after like they left and stuff, I actually met up with my girlfriend at the time, and yeah, there's a lot of times where like she asked me if I was okay and all that stuff, and every single time there's Nala making her as usual appearance.
Scheduled
It's
appearance. I'm gonna mute myself.
um, but yeah, every like anytime that she would sit there and ask if I was okay or whatnot, um, she just wanted she just wanted to be let in of how I was doing, right? And the tough part for me was, oh, I'm fine. Get taught, you're fine. Truck on, move past it. And I actually vividly remember the reason why I love the title, whenever we came about it. I know you talked about it in the episode with Dad, um, that you like, I remember crying in the actual shower, but as soon as I would get out, it would be, "Shut that shit off, pretend you're okay, and not even worry about what the hell you need to worry about." It's just kind of, in acting terms, it'd be lights, camera, action. You kind of move
Yeah,
into the mode of like the Neil, quote unquote, of what everyone else gets to see. Um,
that particular persona that you got to put on.
yeah, yeah, and it's everything's fine. You don't have to
Mhm.
say shit. I got to worry about my biology test. That's the hardest part of my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so even just kind of like in that moment, it was just one of those things. There's a lot of those moments where I remember even younger, just with my parents, like, we talked about this in the previous episodes. We don't cry in front of our fucking parents. What is that? What is that? Right? So just, high school, anytime something happened, I remember when my dada died, like all those times where you just kind of felt that pain, but you never showed it. I know we talk about death a lot, but even that, it bears a semblance of trying not to show it for a reason and putting on a persona at the dinner table, like everything is okay, for the sake of saving someone else's feelings, or
Mhm.
hiding behind the mask of if you actually have feelings of your own. And truth be told, it's, you know, I- I'll speak for us as brown men, at least for myself, but like, men have a really hard time understanding that as there is a need for crying in the shower, there's also a need for crying out of the shower. Like, we think that the need is, oh, well, if we put that, we at least did our part. We let it out in some sort of facet. That's great. But what you're not doing is actually letting it out in the facet that you actually need, right? You're just holding it so tight that at some point it's got to come out. And what's the safest place for most men technically is kind of the bathroom. We don't have it. No one interrupts us in the bathroom. you know, I mean, not to make light of it, but like, to be quite
Ah.
honest, no one kind of interrupts a dude in the bathroom. We just that could be the safe space that most people kind of find. I know for myself, and I'll tell you that, like, I still feel like the bathroom sometimes is a safe space for me, right? Regardless, like, my wife is right there, and I will say that to the max. She kind of knows this too. Like, it's not that any other place isn't available. It's just like, who's going to bother you in that place? No one. No one really actually bothers you, right? So whether it's to cry, whether it's to sit and just scroll, or whether it's to take 5 minutes of peace and breathe, or whatever the case may be, sometimes it's needed. But is it the best possible thing? Um, and I learned at a younger age that while it may have had its place, I don't think that it's the I, shoot. I won't say I don't think. I personally know for myself that it's not the healthiest place. I know that, again, there is a place and time for it, sure, but is it the only thing that you should do? No. And the worst part about it is we talk about authenticity to a max on this, right? For the 5 episodes, we will stop saying that word. We promise. But
We're
um,
getting paid every time we say that word.
we've marketed it. We've copywritten that.
Webster's is giving us kickback.
God, if only we would say that every time. People, we definitely would be
I would
left with
spend an
three.
hour and a half just saying authentic. I don't give a shit. I know.
But then it is really disingenuous to ourselves. The authenticity that we get to feel, you know, there's no amount of masking or facade that can help that. You can try, but eventually there's some part of you that will hate it, and it will show up. That's just the truth of the matter. You can only put on a face for so long and think that you can get away with it. Like, only. and we both have talked about this in previous, like the previous episode where you felt like, oh yeah, if I lied and did what I did and do, whatever, that'd be okay. But eventually it catches up to you regardless of what you think it might. Right.
There's a couple questions I have, and
Yeah, go for it.
then something I want to say too. But RJ, if you let me start talking, it will be here for the next hour. So if you have something or you want to ask, go for it.
No, this is an this is an open
Okay.
dialogue by all means.
Okay.
My question to you is, you said, and it's funny because as you were talking, I was writing this down. I do this a lot. You even in private conversations
Yeah,
you and I have, I'd like
I know
take
this.
notes while we're talking, just because there's certain things that you say that are so profound or so something I want to touch on because I have
I have
comments.
nothing profound to say. I
Oh,
know
you've got plenty.
I know
You've
you
got
said
plenty.
that in the I have nothing. Please don't
You,
listen to me. I
you've
am
got.
just another person,
I agree. I'm
just
not listening to
walking.
you, but you do have profound things to say. um, my question to you was going to be at least one of them. You distinctly verbatim said that's not what you were taught, right? Being able to speak outside of the
Oh
shower,
God, yeah.
you were not taught that.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Where did that come from for you? And I feel like to a certain degree it's almost like a directed question because I think I know
Yeah.
the answer. But I think more importantly, what I really want to know is, when did that change? How did that change?
Oh, we touched on it previously. It's like it does, like, it comes from your environment a lot. Our environment is essentially our parents or our close family relatives. For brown folk, we know that we're kind of around family for the most part.
Immediate family is like 50 people,
50,
guys.
right,
It
exactly.
is
It's
not
not
just your
it's not just
parents.
like two of us or whatever, right? So it's like, well, if you're seeing that constantly, if again, like, think about it. I was a 30-year-old guy, and my 60 something year old caca is sitting there telling me, "Hey, we'll cry later at your dad's, death."
Yep.
Not to bring that up again, but
Yep.
like,
Yep. Yep.
those are things that you see and feel and hear. That is, I hate to say it, but it's constant. Even if you like, I don't want to like downplay anybody else, but at the same time, like, even if you see them happy, and not to say that they have something going on or any of that stuff, right? Even if you see someone as happy as can be, there, in human life in general, there is some sort of, at some point, some tragedy or some sort of emotion that's not just happiness, right? There is always, with happiness, there's some sort of sadness, right?
Balance.
Yeah. But if you're just seeing your parents or your uncles or your aunts or every single eh, person that's kind of around you, no matter what, throughout your life, being that same, like, oh, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. I'm okay, everything's good. Even, like, to be honest, my mom says this now, right? I'm okay, I'm okay. Visibly, you can see stuff. We're not, God has given us eyes and they presented us a brain and all that stuff, right? We can visibly pick up on cues. We can see things. When people are distraught. And as much as Indian people think that they are good poker players, I've never seen an Indian person on, like, World Poker Tour or, all these, like, competitions that they can hide. Like, no, I've never seen an Indian person doing that, right? So we are not good poker players, clearly, at least not a professional poker players. So most of us aren't, right? Um, but if you're constantly around that, like, that's what you're picking up. Those are your cues. And in your environment, if you're just going to be like, wait, then I need to put on that facade too. I need to say, I'm okay. If your parents ask you, hey, you good? Oh, you hurt yourself? Like, what do we tell kids? Like, when they scrape themselves or like they get, pushed down or whatever, however many, whatever is happening to them, right? They look at you and you're like, oh, well, my dad says I'm supposed to be fine. He says he's fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm okay. Right? There's nothing wrong. But it's like, is there actually something wrong, or do you just build that up? And the worst part about doing that is, over time, you start to understand for yourself that, am I questioning myself into thinking that I'm not fine? Am I
Mhm,
sitting
mhm.
here saying, well, If he's just telling me I'm fine, I'm fine. So then I'm even if I'm hurt, I don't even know it. It took me a long time. Like in therapy, I did not realize how much sat on my body for the longest time with me saying I'm fine. My pain threshold is apparently immense, and I had a panic attack, and I had no idea how much actually sat with me through my 30 plus years of being on this planet, right?
36
But
for anyone who was wondering.
but saying I'm fine has taken an immense toll, and it's again, if you're fine, that's great. But if the facade turns into not just the outside, but on the inside, then that turns into a problem. That becomes bigger than like you just putting on a face and you know
You, you,
thinking that's okay.
you know what I'm hearing a lot of? I heard this a lot growing up. And I vividly remember this quote unquote lecture, sentence, whatever you want to call it, lesson. The biggest biggest cardinal sin you could do, the worst thing you could do when you were growing up or really in families is tell someone else what's happening at home.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Right? It
of
was that
course.
metaphor of like, hey, here's your hand. You close your fist. Everything that happens in the family stays in this fist. Right.
Yeah.
And that was the lesson I was given over and over and over again. And it did not, funny enough, immediate family was inclusive of the 50 people when you wanted to throw a dinner, but
But
that
not inclusive when you actually wanted
had
to say that
feelings
you
or
needed
when
to
you
say
wanted to say
something.
something.
Yeah,
Yup.
yeah, absolutely.
That became that much smaller.
And again,
And
like all things have a place. Like absolutely, right? There's certain aspects that do have a place with that. But when it's detrimental, I mean, honey, you can speak on this. Like when
what
it's
yeah, what's up?
detrimental, right? Like what is that actually doing?
Yeah, it's like we don't have a framework as a culture to even begin to understand how to do that, right? Like if I was doing it for myself, then maybe I could do it with somebody else. But if I can't access my own feelings, right? If I can't let out what's going on with me, right? Then how do I sit in it with somebody else?
Yeah. You asked the second part of your question was where did it shift for me? It's still shifting. She can attest to it. It's still a work in progress. But the thing is like if we can't recognize it, that's the biggest problem, right? It's you again. You can put on a false face, and I put it on for quite a bit of time. It's when I wasn't able to recognize it for myself that's a problem. Am I more so able to recognize it for myself? Absolutely. Is it a work in progress now to unlearn that learned behavior? Yeah, just as much as God only knows how long it's actually been a learned behavior, I have to unlearn it, right? And that doesn't mean it doesn't take, it's going to go away right away, but that doesn't mean it's going to take, the rest of my life, hopefully, but who knows?
If you can identify, and I know this is a loaded question because it's asking you to pinpoint
Pinpoint. Yeah.
something that you might not be able to,
Yeah.
because we talk a lot about these cultural norms that we grew up with, these stigmas that were constantly around,
Mm.
but and I'm trying to think about it myself too, like when this shifted for me.
Mm.
But you said it's shifting, right? And
It's
I
shifting.
love what you said. It's a work in progress, and I think
Yeah.
that is a label we can all put on ourselves. We're always a work in progress, and I love that. But I think there, if you can pinpoint a certain moment where you like for the first
What
time, were like,
started?
yeah, where the plate started moving, if you will.
Um, to be honest, where it started was so I went through depression for a good 6 months in 2016 to early 2017. Um, and I remember going to my cousin Nikki's wedding and just being around my cousins essentially for it. It brought something in me that inherently I don't know was there or was kind of blocked or whatever. Um, when I moved to Chicago in 2017, there I got away from like got out of my depression. I had something shift in my mindset of, well, when you get like the quote unquote fresh start, like when
Mhm.
whether you're like a college freshman going, you're like, oh, I can be anything I want to be. Well, for me, it was you have that kind of a couple of times, I think, in your life, I hope. But for me, when I moved to Chicago, it was a chance to then really, really start understanding stuff for myself that I hadn't otherwise. When I went through depression, it wasn't because of the thing. It was when uh, something happened with an ex of mine that kind of triggered it. It wasn't them that did it. It was just that something got triggered inside of me that led me down into that point. Um, and as you can see, it's really hard for me to talk about. But yeah, it kind of, in those 6 months, I, again, could not recognize myself for the slightest. I did not understand it. I did not know what it was going on. Even months after that, even when I moved to Chicago, I didn't know what was going on, but inherently something shifted inside of me. Something just
Mhm.
kind of pieced into a way of like, yeah, I was doing those things. Yeah, these things affected me. And it wasn't, again, fully like I can kind of talk more in depth of how I am now as I've gotten older and understand it more. But that time in around February to about like summer, the first like few months in Chicago, and the 6 months prior to like when I was kind of in that mode, something got triggered to where what I was doing prior wasn't the same as what came out after.
Mhm.
Now, that, please, is a disclaimer to not going into depression to being like, oh, well, I'll be a butterfly. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's not like I came out with some metamorphosis. It was just something that triggered, that happened. And in that place, you go to really dark places. You feel and understand things for yourself that you really can't explain to anybody else. And to be honest, it's not for anybody else. Um, your hope is that people can be kind to you, can understand as much as they can, but you eventually come out of that with a different idea, with a different placement of where you were before it started. And that kind of what happened. I don't, again, I can't explain it in many words, but essentially you go through a change, and that was a drastic change um, for myself. And that's kind of where, if I was to pinpoint a shift starting to happen,
Mhm.
it was just coming out, moving to Chicago, and then understanding like I don't need to put on a false face. And that doesn't mean I never did.
Right.
Still happened.
Right. Right.
But the more you understand and see it, it changes. It doesn't, you can't just, it's not like a cold turkey thing where you just kind of flip it off, and some people it can be. For me, it wasn't. It took time to still change through that and understand that for myself. But um, yeah, if I was to pinpoint it, that would be the time place that I for sure know that something shifted, something
Mhm.
inside of
Mhm.
me that was just like, can't, can't just put on that, like, yeah, I'm great. Hey, I'm not bothered by anything. Shrug the shoulders and, keep it moving and, do all that nonsense. But yeah,
You hit a
again,
breaking point.
yeah, I mean, eventually it does. That's why
Yeah.
I've said this a couple of times previously. It's like, it will catch up, whether
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
want it to or not. Eventually, some place in your life, inside your being, it will catch up. Doesn't matter who you are. Hell, you could be President Donald Trump. It will catch up, and I'm sure he's had that too. Like, and every single person, there is something inside of each of us that in any sort of moment in our life, something triggers something that you're not the same. Like, and it's not a small change. It's like there's kind of a little bit of a bigger fixture of like something inherent happens inside of you because it's yearning to. Doesn't mean it has to be big. It's just like there's something. There's always something. You had it happen too, right?
Couple different
Everyone,
times.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's inescapable and it's cool. I say cool in very light terms because it's very hard, but it is inescapable. Oh my god,
It's okay.
inescapable.
English is like what, your fourth language, fifth language? It's fine.
Talking fast is inescapable. Look, I can't say it. I'm a good speller. I know I can say words too. Don't don't say anything. Neither of you.
Okay, Miso.
I knew it.
Love it. Best thing she could have said.
That was an inside joke, by the way. I know how to spell measles. I just didn't because I froze up. It was a spelling bee joke because I lost on that word.
Yeah, I want you to know that without that context, I think everyone would have just thought you have measles.
I know. That's why I had to put it out there.
Oh, that's wonderful. I appreciate you
Savage.
sharing, man.
Savage. Thanks.
Of course.
Who wants to go next? I'm just kidding. This
Not
isn't
all
a,
at the same
this
time.
is, yeah, not at the same time, guys. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, same kind of question to you, honey. What is it to you that crying in the shower and smiling at dinner mean?
I feel like I have a different relationship with it, than maybe you guys do, right? And,
That's why we
which,
wanted you on here.
yeah,
Two dudes talking about it is totally different than a woman talking about it. So
fair,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I am the type of person who hates that, right? Like, I don't want to put it on. I am definitely on the opposite spectrum of emotion is here and let's do emotion, right? Because for me, it's, hey, good or bad, it's emotion, it's here, right? Like, um, yeah, there's emotions that are hard to sit with, right? Hard to talk about, hard to feel, but that doesn't mean they're bad. They're information, right? So roll up your sleeves, let's be here in it, right? Like, yeah, that's okay. Sure, crying in the shower, beautiful, wonderful. That's and I've obviously had to get to this point, right? But yeah, I think there was a point in my life where I kind of decided like I just can't, I don't want to, right? Like I don't want to hold it in, right? And luckily I had the opportunity in life to do that, right? Where, the smiling at dinner wasn't a concern, right? Which I was fortunate enough to experience. But I feel like, yeah, it is hard for me to do the other part. Like, I feel like you're talking about how it's hard for you to do the emotion part, and for me, it's hard to do the hiding it part, right? I just don't want to. It feels inauthentic. It makes me more angry to be saying, "Oh, push it away. Don't, no, why? For what? For who?" Um, I don't like doing it. I don't want to do it, right? I think now I'm maybe in a different balance of, um, and wanted to get your guys' opinion on this too, right? Like when I hear the difference, right? Crying in the shower, smiling at dinner, um, to me, it's like compartmentalizing, right? Which
Uh-huh.
is a
Uh-huh.
different version of what we're speaking about,
Uh-huh.
right? Different truth, of what that means, right? That yeah, it can also have a benefit of maybe I shouldn't be feeling all of my feelings, and I
All the
need
time.
some way all the time, right? And I
Yeah.
need some way of containing that, right? And yeah, finding a healthy balance of I always talk to people about how, like emotions are kind of like cleaning your house, right? Like if you're cleaning your room and just shoving in things inside a closet, right? Your house is going to look great. It's going to feel good, right? And then you're going to come back, things are going to pile up. push it in again, right? Eventually, you're gonna have to open the closet and look in it, and or it's just gonna come out. There's not gonna be any more room, right? So once in a while, you need to open that closet and sit inside it, take things out, maybe keep things in there for another time, right? But that work is necessary just as much as it is sometimes also to close it, you know?
So, as someone who seems to have a much healthier relationship with said closet,
I don't know.
um, the first question that immediately jumps to my mind is how.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a different question, which I'll ask after.
Yeah.
Because from what it sounds like to me is, and there's probably a point, like you said, that you just had enough and you didn't want to do it anymore. You didn't want to have to balance expectations and compartmentalizing and all of that. You just wanted to be authentic.
And
But
to be honest, I don't know if I have, I don't think I have it figured out, right? Like I think I still struggle with it and I still kind of I think maybe the thing that I've learned is when I feel like the balance is off to kind of hit the brakes and evaluate, right? Like
mm,
I don't think I do a good job of it. Like I don't think I have it figured out, but I think I know when to like say like, okay, this isn't working, right? Um, but to do that, right? Like I think it's been really important for me to listen to what I'm feeling, right? Like to actually
uh,
give myself permission, which is so hard. And I know the thing we're talking about is that when you don't do that, when you haven't been shown that, right? Like, how do you do that? Um,
Yeah, we could keep asking the how. We could-
yeah,
that's the struggle, right?
yeah. But I think it's so important, right? To say like, oh my gosh, the first step of it all, right, is to say, okay, I don't want to feel this, and I feel angry, and I feel sad, and I feel all of this, right? And usually it's not one thing, right? When it's complicated emotions, it's more than one, right? It's many things under a mountain of all this stuff that just piles, right? I think it's so important to just let yourself say it out loud.
Okay, so the first thought I had, yours was how, mine was where did it come from for you? Like where in your lifetime did you did you ever have a place where, and I know how weird this sounds to everyone listening out there, is like, shouldn't you know this? But it's like, yeah, of course, there's points where you should know things, but um, for everyone out there, where did you have that point in your life? Where did it come from for you?
Yeah. So around the time I was in grad school, first year grad school, and my grad program, very intense, right? Counseling school. Looks different than, than a lot of other types of schooling, right?
where did you go to grad school?
Um, School of the Art Institute of Chicago. No shout outs. We
Shout
don't want
out
Shout
to
it.
the
out.
No,
Art Institute of Chicago.
we don't. It's fine.
That's
They're
the
Bam,
only
bam,
cool,
reason I
but
bam,
asked.
no
bam.
shout outs.
I
We
It's
know.
got to do
fine.
our proper shout outs.
We got to do our shout outs
No,
Yeah.
I'm
regardless.
not. No, I
One
don't
of them's
want
going to pay us. Sorry, go ahead.
hopefully,
it.
hopefully it's the Art Institute.
It won't. Anywho, so right, grad school. Um, okay, yeah. I don't know how much I want to say, but here we go.
As
That's
much
entirely
as
up to
you
you, girl.
feel
Yeah.
comfortable enough to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't feel obligated, but
No, I
it's
think
as much as
I'm
you're
okay.
comfortable enough.
I think I'm okay saying, saying more. It's just kind of like, disclaimer, like, trigger warning, right? All that. Um,
You can say
so,
that, by the way. If you need to throw in you can throw in a disclaimer
okay.
and a trigger warning if you would like
Yeah.
to.
All right, disclaimer, trigger warning. Right, so grad school, right, counseling school. And I remember one of my classes, it was actually like the first class that I ever took, right? And we were doing this case study. Um, uh, the case study was about rape, and I've been doing like work around that, like minimally in therapy, but it wasn't like the focus because obviously, as we may or may not know, right? Like things around that are kind of repressed, right? And it's not necessarily something that you think of, right? So anywho, during that time, a lot of memories came back for me, a lot of, really hard, heavy things that I didn't want to look at. And it was so in my face, right, that it was inescapable. Kind of like what Neil was saying, right? Like it was just, like even if I don't like, right, like I'm walking to class bawling my eyes out and I don't know why. I'm having nightmares, I'm having flashbacks, right? So it was real, right? And at the time, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. It was just me kind of going through this, high emotion of like, what's going on? It's so uncomfortable. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know what to do about it, right? So it was a lot of me kind of, and I imagine all of my life, maybe until that point, like some version of kind of trying to stuff it in, right? Like kind of just not looking at it, for a lot of reasons, right? Like my brain and my body didn't know or understand how to make sense of it, right? Which is something actually I wanted to say about I don't know why I want to say our parents, but people who don't want to talk about certain things, right? Like there's a reason
Our
why,
parents.
right? Like, well,
You
that
can
too,
say
right?
you can say it. The
Yeah.
older generation, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, sure. One of the reasons might be I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know what to do, but another might very well be my body and my brain doesn't know, right? Like there are
Mhm.
things that are so repressed, right, that we really don't know, right? Anyway, so during this time, right, it was again me trying to contain, couldn't do it. Um, did a lot of work in therapy, and I came to a point where it's like hiding it, pushing it down just was not it, because I couldn't, right? Like it was just in my face at all times that I kind of became averse to like having done it for so long that then it was all right, this is shitty, this hurts, let's do it, and that also took a long time of let's sit with this, let's look at what this is about. And I obviously talk about it very differently than how it felt, right?
Right.
Which is kind of cool. But yeah, it came from that for me, right? um to learn how to do it in a different way because there really wasn't another option.
That's
Thank you
actually
for sharing
really,
that.
yeah, for real. Yes, thank you for
Uh,
sharing that.
yeah.
That's actually a really unique way of looking at it. I think the theme seems to resonate similarly in like of like a breaking point where it just gets to be a point where you have to look at it in the face, or at least
Okay.
put a label to it at some point. I think it's just the way we go about it and how when that happens for each of us, that probably looks different.
Okay.
Um, but it's funny, because you said our parents, right? And I actually think it's ironic because
Not every parent, by the way, just FYI,
yeah,
but
it's yeah,
but
yeah,
most
100%.
most of the older generations,
Most of the older
absolutely. Yeah.
generation. And I think what's really unique about this topic is that you kind of see it trickle down generations, right? Like we all know people
Mhm.
who inhabit the similar qualities as the generations before them. And we all know people who are afraid to put a label to an emotion. It's much easier to just pretend that emotion isn't there because then it makes that entire piece much easier to deal with. It technically just doesn't exist. Either you shove it down, you pretend it doesn't exist, you ignore it, and hopefully it just looks easier for you because that is the path of least resistance. Excuse me.
Yeah. If I feel like it's just popped into my head. If the older generation had the title for this episode, I feel like it would just be called just shower in the shower, like just showering in the shower and eating at the table. And that was it. There's no like, what is smiling? What is crying? Like, dude, we just had to get our stuff done, get it done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do the thing that you're doing, go to sleep, do the thing that you're doing again, and then make a life. Like, figure out how to make the life. That's,
And there's
you know,
meaning and purpose in that, right? But they just didn't
absolutely,
like
absolutely.
want to
They
hold
didn't,
space for anything else.
right. And
Yeah. Or
because it
couldn't.
wasn't, yeah, they couldn't, they weren't shown it, you know,
Yep. Yep.
like we talked about this. All our parents are immigrant parents. They came to survive.
Mm-hmm.
There was only survival. There
Mm-hmm.
was
Right.
Mm-hmm.
no thinking of crying. Like they probably did. I'm sure there were days, you know,
Sure.
I know my mom did. I
Yeah.
know like I know mom did, RJ's mom did, like I know your mom did, right? Like we know that.
Just did the other day.
Right. But we know it even then, like they're trying to survive, but they're even women in our culture, it was to eat it as much as they could. And because the men showed up as, well, I don't even have a space to cry. I need to have my family survive in this
Right.
new fucking land. And that's pretty much it.
Right.
Everything else goes to shit. So the women see that too, and they have to be supportive. They're like, well, we can't show up with our, you know, I'm making this very simplistic and kind of crass as it is, but like it kind of it felt like that, like because of how some of the things that even trickled down to us and what's said to us, right? How it's said to us is also that way
Mm.
of like, well, you know, the past episode, I was sitting there going, my dad told me to shut up, stop crying. Like, like, why are you crying? Well, why are you crying? Isn't they like, you can't ask a person why they're crying. You don't, yeah, especially a
All right.
kid after
At
you
least
hit
not
them.
like that.
Yeah, like after you smack them. What do you mean? Why are you crying? They suck my tear in my tear duct. Like that's not how it works, right? So like you can see the trickle down effect and like even remotely how it's confronted, how it's talked about, how it's said, right?
It's that whole idea of I think I said it in one of the episodes. It's what's happening around you is much bigger than what's happening inside you.
Side of you.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Which
think
is
huge.
crazy to think that. Crazy to think that what's happening inside you is more important than what's happening around you. You can conduct yourself through the world way better if you understand what's going on
Uh-huh.
inside of you. I hope that hits people, whoever listens beside us. I hope that hits people really hard. I think this is a big movement that's been
Yeah.
happening recently,
Yeah.
but I hope it starts to take hold more and more. What happens inside of you and your understanding of what's happening inside of you hits way differently
Uh-huh.
than what's happening around you. You can conduct yourself
1,000%.
through life way better if you understand it better inside. That's
It's
my golden nugget for this episode.
I told you you're full of them. You're
No,
full of
that
them.
was it. That was it. That's because I've had to make that shift myself. Like
Mhm.
that's you know, we all talk about it of like what's the pinpoint. Like again, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't RJ's was somewhat big. It was in her face, right? Mine was somewhat big. It was in my face, but it doesn't necessarily have to be big. It can be anything as long as you start paying attention. If we ignore it, it's gonna end up being big.
Mhm.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
If we keep ignoring it,
Uh-huh.
that's kind of the deal that happens. So now your turn, buddy.
Oh boy.
Unless RJ, if you have anything else to say.
I do want to say, right? Like, I think you're right. It is different for men and women, right? But I feel
Right.
like we don't consider like things that happen kind of like, okay, so like we consider therapy, right, as like this thing that like is supposed to like, that's what you go and do when you like start doing inner work, right? But like that's obviously not the only thing, right? Like um but I think like what's so cool about like women in like generations before us, right, is like they had that, right? Like they had like how your mom talks about like talking to her sisters, right? Like
Uh-huh.
and like having that network, right? Like same thing. My mom has her people, right? Like I think like that connection is so cool and that like women are more so able to kind of foster, whereas like men hanging out in our culture, right? Like looks very different and like
Mhm.
Yeah,
that
but
connection isn't
it's drinking
happening, right?
buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biting.
But chicken parties and drinking buddies.
Yeah.
That's the hanging out. I
Yeah, like
mean,
so like there might be like some other version of a release, right? Like for women, whereas like imagine like for your dad, for example, right? Like that's where.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you, your dad too. How do you attest to that, right? It's like, yeah, they hung out with friends, but what do they essentially do? Like, they chewed tobacco, they drank, and they ate food and joked around and dicked around. Pretty much it. That's
Yeah,
where the
which
buck stopped.
speaks
I
to
don't know how
like,
in depth they actually talk
yeah,
about
like
this.
when we don't let out and express, right? Like, yeah, we're gonna find other ways of like dealing with it, which,
Yeah. Which
yeah,
again, that those are temporary fixes, right? Like what you're talking about is like for men, that would be a temporary fix. Hanging out with people to kind of alleviate that is a temporary 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of just chilling but not actually doing anything. Like cool to a certain extent.
yeah. I mean,
But
more
then
so like
even in front of your friends, you're
coping,
putting on a
yeah,
face.
coping with drinking, coping with chewing tobacco, right? Like doing things that, are maybe helping temporarily, but are adding to a much larger problem
Yeah.
of
But
avoiding.
like even in front of your friend, even in front of their friends, they're putting on a face.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing, right? Which all of them are doing. It's like that Spider-Man meme that's just like pointing the finger, but it's like none of them actually know what's underneath that mask. They're just looking at Spider-Man. Oh, what if that was the real Spider-Man meme? What?
The low budget version. You know, as I was listening to you both, I was kind of like frozen for a minute there because I was kind of taking it in. But it also hit me that like we're talking about RJ. You mentioned that network that our moms somewhat had. We talked about our dads having friends or cousins, brothers, siblings, whatever that like they went and dicked around with. But I think what not upsets me, but like what I think is really really sad because we have it. I know for a fact that the six of us have it with our significant others. They couldn't even do that with their partners.
Uh,
Yeah.
And I think that
yeah.
to me has got to be one of the most jarring things in that generation because you're talking about someone you're living with, you're building a life with, you're going through these tumultuous times with, right? You're immigrating to a whole new country with this person. Do you even really know them, right? Like you know them, you know aspects of them, you know what makes them tick, you know versions of them that they show you, but do you really know them? Because if they can't share, I've told both of you this on multiple occasions. My biggest thing is I want to show up for people on their worst days. If your partner hasn't seen the worst of you or has been there for the worst of your days, do they even know you? And that is baffling me right now as I'm thinking about it.
You know, I used to chuckle like I used to chuckle when I was little, when I was like young. One of the things I thought about was how my mom always loved my dad more.
Mm,
And in our culture, in our society, I personally like in our society, in Indian society,
mhm, mm.
I personally think women love their men more times than none. The women love their partners more because they're akin to their needs. If and the only reason I say this, it's probably wrong, but the only reason I say this is because the dads never show that shit. They're
Mhm,
like as
mhm.
much as you might think like, "Oh no, what are you talking about?" Like to also have someone else state the other, you have to show the other, right?
Right.
Women in our culture are more akin to their husbands' needs than the husbands are more akin to their wives' needs.
Or their own.
Or their I mean
A
that is
given.
for sure, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a given.
yeah.
But it's I mean, it's infallible how
Yeah.
easy that is to see
Yeah,
over and over again.
that kind of makes me think of what I meant when you said, right? Like, how can you love someone when you don't fully know them, right?
Mhm.
But can't you, right? Like that, like,
You
right?
can.
Like, sure, maybe it's easier when you fully understand someone and like get into the roots of all of what makes them who they are and how cool is that, right? But also like, do, like, but you can love them without having that also, right? Like, I think the reason why I say that, right, is like I watched my ba and my dada, right? Like, and like obviously like that generation, whole another story, right? But like there's something just so simple about like
Not speaking and
showing
still
up.
loving. Yeah.
Come on,
There
like
is, there
showing
is.
like showing up, right? Like and like knowing that that person is still there, right? Like to lean on, right? Vice versa, because I saw it for both of them. Like I don't think it was just like a woman showing up for her man, right? Like I think it goes both ways, but yeah, like I think there's like I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think love is something else.
No, so I think what you're saying is slightly different than what Amit might be meaning.
Okay.
Because yes, while even in silence you can absolutely love someone, I think Amit, if I'm wrong, like you're talking about even on their worst day, why someone couldn't show up, like why you couldn't still, you know,
Express
even
yourself.
even remotely,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Even remotely. It's not about just like even like yeah, Bas and Dadas, I mean, they are, dude, you don't have to say they don't say a word 10 12, 15 hours a day. And yet there is no denying when you understand someone throughout their entire life, right?
Yeah.
There's no denying it. And that is technically love, because they're in it through thick and thin with that
Yeah.
person. I think the difference is, though, is like our parents sat there and ignored, like, there's something also different of how even the generation prior might have looked in terms of showing their emotion
Yeah.
compared to technically our parents. And that doesn't mean that, obviously they learned it from somewhere, right? But at the same time, like, yeah, like you're saying, that the narrative of our, especially our parents, immigrant parents coming over, having all these other things, and still like, as much as we might think it's love, or they're just together and they're trying to just do this, like fit a puzzle piece that doesn't technically fit for the sake of fitting it. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that would be the thing that you would call love. Like there's something still missing inherently there.
I mean, I think love in its purest form can truly be a lot of different things, right? Unconditional. It can be you can love this version of someone that evolves over time, changes over time. So I fully agree with you. I think you can love someone even if they haven't shown you parts of themselves. To me, I think the part that truly sends me for a loop is I cannot imagine
Mm.
living that way, being that way,
Yeah,
being in
we're
a day to day with someone where
yeah.
I can't be who I am, right?
Yeah,
And that's
that's why we're
Yeah.
here. That's why we are
yeah,
here
yeah,
and we're
truly,
not there. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
again, different aspects, different lives,
for
different
sure,
generations,
for
different
sure.
environment.
It almost makes you wonder what our parents would have looked like if they had this. Like it really gets me curious
Stop. Stop. I don't want to know that.
like it.
It took me years of trying to just be okay with forgiving my dad. So let's
Fair,
just leave.
fair.
Let's not get into fantasy realms of like, God, man, life would have looked whole. We would have been $1,000,000, baby. Nah, we can't do that.
Yeah,
It would have been way different
it would have
if
been. It would
we
have been.
talked about the whole, like, even 1%. Think about just the 1% of how that shifts a lot of things, right? The craziest part is, you think us three would be also having this talk about that? No.
No, maybe a better problem to have, but
Maybe a
we're
better
here.
problem
We're
to
here.
have.
We're here.
But maybe that could be for the next generation of people not to
Absolutely.
have that problem, right?
Absolutely. Going back to that whole concept of
Sucks.
it sucks, but to a certain degree, it's almost up to us.
Yeah.
Weirdly as that sounds.
So tell us about yours. What is crying in the shower, smiling at dinner mean to Amit?
I think I'll spend a very quick,
No,
quick,
queek? A quick amount, yeah.
Huh? That inventing words. Webster's, hit me up.
Says the guy who said, what was the other word?
Dude, I don't even remember what that
Re-
word was. I know what you're talking about. I don't even fucking remember right now.
regressment.
Some regress, something like that. Something dumb as fuck. Um,
Had me questioning myself. Jesus.
I will spend a very brief amount of time talking about the very obvious answer to that question. Crying in the shower, smiling at dinner is, of course, a huge throwback, call for my dad, right? And most viscerally, of course, being that day that he found out that he has 6 months to live, I truly embodied that statement where I went into the shower, cried my eyes out, and that was about the last time that I cried in front of him thereafter. And I think that's very easy for me to say. I think what that statement, when I hear it, for a lot of our listeners, viewers, whatever, could also just mean that they're not seen. They don't feel safe enough to be seen in the environment that they're growing up in or around. Um, and I think what was really, really cool for me to now look back on is when I started emoting. Because for a very, very long time, I didn't know the difference between persona Amit, or like putting on a show Amit,
Putting on a show.
and real Amit, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know where that line existed or where it started and ended. So for the longest time, I spent a good amount of my life just being a certain way for whatever that situation, group, social event called for. If you needed me to be that guy that goes out and just, I'm extroverted and go make friends, I'll go out and do that. If you need me to be the guy that shows up and like coordinates everything and takes care of everything, I will do that. And I quickly just became whatever the situation called for. But what was really cool is when I started to finally unpack that and realize that there truly is a difference, and it's okay. Like I kind of briefly, I think RJ, I mentioned it to you over the weekend, of like this MC persona that I've started to realize about myself. Like when I go out
MC
there,
Midi, shout
MC
out.
Midi, exactly. He's like his own little person, right, in that world. And I'm okay to say that now because I know that I can leave it there. It doesn't cross boundaries. It doesn't change. But when I started to emote, especially about dad, no one around me really knew how to handle that. And I think that is an aspect of this that I would love to hopefully drive some change to, and even bring some light to, is that we truly don't know how to create that space for others as well. And I think we're learning that, our generation's learning that, the generation before us, like we talked about, right, for different reasons, they didn't get that, they didn't see that, they didn't know how to create that themselves. For us, going back to what you said, Neil, right, like your dad passed away, you have every right to cry, to feel what you felt in that moment, and to not have to show up. And your kaka said, "Hey, we ain't got time for that. Like, we'll cry it later." Right? Later probably never happened. It's probably still somewhat happening for you, but the
And
fact,
that's not their fault.
it's
That's
not.
that's
It's not.
the oh, that's the
It's a tough
that's
pill to
the
swallow.
yeah, that's the hardest thing, is
Yeah,
like that perspective is absolutely true.
yeah. It's such a, like, I wanted to be mad at the people around me because I needed someone to blame. Let's be real, right? In that situation, I needed someone to be angry at because I needed to direct my emotions somewhere. They were just getting bundled up in me, and they were only going to last there for so long. So then I needed to direct it. The whole, we failed at bringing up those 7 stages of grief or whatever, Neil, last time, but like, it's very much a part of that. You needed to direct those emotions somewhere. I needed to direct those emotions somewhere. And I remember one night, um, watching, I want to say it was Half Girlfriend, the movie Half Girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
or the other one with Anushka Sharma. Either way, the concept was that this person had cancer, passed away thereafter, right? And I started bawling my eyes out. And my cousins, who had recently immigrated from India at that point, they didn't know what to do. Like, they didn't know how to handle that. They didn't know how to create space for that. And I started crying, and I realized that, like, this wasn't it. This wasn't the space for me to do that. So I stepped out into the garage, and I just cried by myself. Right? I was okay with the crying. At that point, I'd at least done a little bit of work to be okay with that. But when they came out, they truly did not know what to do with that. Even to this day, when on my dad's death anniversary, where they don't really know what to say, right? Like, to me, if I'm not when I'm angry, when I'm thinking about them, like, oh, they don't give a shit, they're not reaching out to me, what the fuck, blah blah blah. And I'm coming to realize that it's because they don't know what to say. They don't know how to empathize with that or how to create space for that. And truly, if there's anything that I've taken from this, it's that I want to emphasize that, right? I don't want you, like RJ said, I don't want you to cry in the shower and smile at dinner. I want it to all look how it's going to look no matter where you
Right.
are, whether that's in the
Yeah.
shower, at dinner, whatever the fuck you are. Um, and I think that's what's been hitting me recently is how to create space for someone in that way. And then there's the overdoing part where you're trying to create space too much. Now it's becoming an expectation. They're not doing it. That's a whole other concept, whole other character flaw of mine that I'm working
Uh,
on. But that's,
Amit,
neither
what
here
did
nor
you
there.
need? What would you have wished that someone would have done for you?
Mm,
How
that's a
could they
great
have
question, actually.
held space for you?
I would have just given you some tissues. I'm still struggling
Surprisingly,
to.
I'm not a snotty crier,
Uh, oh,
which like my wife is,
oh,
and
so is my wife.
like rest ripped has so many of my
Yeah,
damn t-shirts that I actually did like in
yeah.
the past, but now I'm smart and I give her my old ones. But
I need to start doing that as soon as you
yeah,
start. I should just run real quick and
yeah.
No,
put on something that's. I'll
no,
put on one of your shirts,
no,
and yeah, that could actually work.
no.
But
Bro, that's
thanks for
gonna be like a
that.
crop top on you, man. Like it's gonna be
No, no,
weird as fuck.
she's got some
Oh,
big ones that
oversized.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Just grab a hoodie or something that she usually cries in, but I'll put it on. Be like, oh,
Not
hold
surprised
on
at
real
all
quick,
that
hold on.
these two are friends. For those of you that don't know, RJ and my wife Norelli
That's why they're
grew up as
friends.
really close friends, best friends, and so this is why they're friends because they're fucking weirdos who wear oversized t-shirts. But that's fine.
Yeah. And snot
Um,
a lot.
I'm kidding. Um,
Love you guys.
your question was, what did I need in that moment? I don't know if I had the answer then, and I think Neil and I kind of touched on that too. You don't know what you need, but and it's very much possible that people were giving it to me or providing it for me, and I didn't know how to accept it or I didn't know what to look for. But beyond that, I think it was also that the obvious answer, what I needed dad back. Obvious answer to that question. I think what I really, really needed was for someone to tell me that it's okay if something fails. There was a lot of pressure in that time to pick up the pieces to figure out how to pay the bills, not just like logistically, like online or calling him, but also just how to make ends meet. And I think it would have been nice for someone to basically just put their hand on my back and say, "Hey, if something goes wrong, I'm here. Right? Like I got your back." And I think I've spent the last 13 years looking for that. It's probably put a lot of pressure on some of the relationships in my life because I think I enter a lot of my relationships saying, "Hey, like, are you that person that I can lean on? Are you finally the one that I can put my head on
Mhm.
and not just cry?" I think I got that down pat. Um, but just to know that, like, if I fuck up today, if I have a really, really bad day, that I can, that I can fuck up.
Yeah. Permission.
Permission. Yeah.
Dang, that's a good perspective. That's appreciate you saying that. Like the space needed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny because me and RJ are kind of going through that right now. And this is I'm gonna do the unthinkable of share what's going on in the house. No. But it is exactly that. It's two different generations essentially trying to figure out giving the space and needing the space. Um, which that is a whole work of art to do, and even including myself. Like I'll tell you, for me personally, have sucked at it. I won't say I suck at it now or still, but I have my days where it doesn't work, and my wife can attest to that. I'm very much in the whole learning phase of trying to give her space. She is one of a kind in terms of understanding a whole lot more than I have.
You should hear what he says
Um,
about you when you're not here.
I bet.
Yours is recorded, so now I'm just kidding. I can't say anything because you actually went on record and it's out there now for the world to know. So that episode will drop next week. but or wow, no, this sorry, we're recording while that episode will have dropped already. Sorry.
By the time this one comes out, yeah.
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 Yeah. No, but just learning that, right? It's the things that we weren't given of uh are you having technical difficulties
Oh, she
because you
can't
muted
hear.
yourself?
She can't hear.
She can't she's not saying anything
All right,
either.
quick, say whatever you want to say now.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Um did your headphones die?
Maybe just exit and rejoin the. Oh, I'm acting like she can hear me.
She can't hear. Just turn it to computer now. Oh,
Can you still hear me?
yeah, now we can.
Okay, I don't know what happened. They didn't die. They were still connected.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
weird. That's okay.
It's okay.
You're good.
It's fine. The amount of things that have happened in our episodes, it is totally fine. Yeah, no, the whole like giving space to people, I think, is a very, some people have it, some people it's has to be learned, and I think that is a very very big thing that needs to be learned. We, as our generation grows, we did not, I mean, for the most part, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but we did not get that, and it was not given to the generation prior. But we do need to start focusing more on doing so, because as much as we need to do the work inside, we have people on the outside to be able to kind of share this space with. It's not just meant for us and ourselves, but it's meant for everyone. So that is huge. That perspective that you shared, like that's a big thing that I don't think it's talked about enough. My wife talks about it a lot, and she is so smarter than I am, so much smarter than I am in terms of that. But
just by you saying she is so smarter than I am, yeah, we got
yeah,
that.
it shows.
We got
I mean,
that.
people will notice even more so. It's just because I'm nervous doing these things, but no, I'm not as
It's cute.
eloquent as
RJ makes you nervous. It's good. It's a good thing.
everything makes me nervous. Sometimes walking outside makes me. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Do you guys think it'd be helpful to like talk about like how people can hold space? Because I mean, I feel you. I feel like because like we don't know how to share, right? And like a lot of times it's a real concern that like if I open up, right, like how is it going to be received, right? So like should like it I think it's good practice for us to all learn like how to hold space for people, right? Like
well, that's a great point that you bring up there. So how would we learn to hold space?
yeah, this isn't on me, right? It's for all of us. But I think
No,
like okay,
but
like some things that I
what's a
like,
good way
right?
of
Like
doing it?
maybe we can
Yeah.
talk about like what feels nice to all of us, right? Like I know for myself, like yeah, having the space to speak, right? Like versus someone who is interrupting. And that's also like what I value when someone shares, right? That like I'm being attentive, right? Like I'm giving them the time, holding space for me is that, right? Like I'm listening, I'm here with you, like I'm not like on my phone or right? Like um validation is our new favorite word. Um right? Like that is really
Yeah.
important. Um, yeah, kind of goes back to not interrupting and like what Amit was saying too, right? Like that support, the permission, right? Like telling a friend that like, hey, it's okay for you to cry, right? Like it's okay for you to let this out. Like I'm listening. I hear you, right? Like making someone feel welcomed in doing this, right? Like acknowledging that it's not easy.
I'm going to answer that in a way that might sound obvious and a bit counterproductive, but I think it's actually the biggest reason why at least I know I can create space for people. It's because I created space for myself first.
Mm.
And I think if I didn't create space for myself
Yep.
internally, right? Continue to tell myself like, hey, it's okay that I'm hurt. It's okay
Mhm.
that I'm upset. It's okay that I'm angry. It's okay that I'm crying. All of these things are okay, despite what, my parents or people around me of that generation that had a different perspective on it have told me, despite maybe what I've learned over the years, this is okay. It then allows me to tell someone else,
Yeah.
it's okay that you're in it too, or you're in it with me, whatever that looks like for someone else. Because I've seen my ugly, and I'm okay with my ugly, and I'd much rather be here with you when you're seeing your ugly.
Mhm. That's great.
Yeah, ditto.
I think also a disclaimer, right? You don't have to be perfect to share. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to get to
Mm-hmm.
that to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And right, like sometimes that self-assurance is really kind of a kick in, okay, maybe I can do this with someone else.
I don't have much to add on to that because I'm again learning process for me. Learning in both aspects, learning to share with like to give provide myself some space and how I can outwardly show up for my partner. Um, so I'm kind of in the middle with you guys. I personally think of me as just a student trying to figure it out, which I am a pain in the ass when it comes to that. And she can attest to this because she has so much patience with me, even though sometimes I don't think so. Um, so that's why she's that's why she said that's why
Way
she
to
said
give a backhanded compliment, my friend.
no. I mean, no, that's a front-handed compliment. What do you mean? She has so much patience, even though I personally don't. I don't think so, but I'm an idiot again. Um, and it's only because she's asking for what she needs. She knows what she needs, and I don't have the wheels are turning, but I did not have the information or any way of recognizing it. Partly it's recognizing it from the outside, partly it's recognizing it from the inside. What do those things mean to me in terms of that? And it's big, like you said, of yeah, there's got to be some sort of component of understanding it for yourself to be able to understand it for someone else, right? If you don't have either, how can you do even one of those, right? I mean, it's kind of simple as that. So I'm kind of the measurement stick of in between. To all the people out there, these are the two people I kind of have to kind of lean on more in terms of gaining some information, knowledge, and understanding around these things. So don't feel like it's scary. I'm a 36-year-old middle-aged guy who is learning, and it's okay to learn. It's okay to doing that way. And the funniest part is, even if you ask yourself, sometimes it may not look like this. It may just be like, I'm okay with where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay
Mm-hmm.
with not knowing to being, you know, showing more emotion that I need to. It's okay to be whatever you are as long as you understand it for yourself. If you're just blindly going at it thinking that you're just taking whatever, I think then it gets kind of a weirder area. But if you understand it for yourself, I think you're okay. So that's the biggest thing.
My favorite thing to think about is how you can only meet others as deeply as you've met yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this to both
Absolutely.
of you so many times, but yeah, like if you're doing the work for you, right, like then you have some sort of a different capacity to kind of do that for others too.
I'm so fortunate to have smart people like you around me. I
I think we all
really
learn
am.
from each other
God bless.
plenty.
I feel like
I don't
Neil
know about
sells
all that.
himself short a
Way
lot,
too short.
right?
Way
Like,
too short.
No, no, I sell myself right in the middle
no.
because I am just a work in progress.
Well,
I
so
So
are
mean,
are
we.
everyone
you.
is. Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone is. But
exactly.
there's certain things that you guys know a lot more of, and I very proud of that
There are certain
because
things you know a lot more of.
No. If anything, Neil, I
I don't
think
know about that.
it's just all it is acknowledging that we're just at different stops in this journey, right? At different
Exactly.
points in this journey. That doesn't
Right.
make us better, smarter, or anything like that. It just means we're at different
Oh, you
points.
guys are so self-deprecating. I know both of you guys so
I'm
much.
sorry, and you're being
Yeah,
what exactly?
I'm being me. Because- and you hate that. Okay.
Yeah, at times, you a frustrating
Uh,
motherfucker, but that's okay. We all are.
oh man.
The theme I think that we're all touching on, and we'll probably leave you all with is this idea of it's okay. Wherever you're at is okay. Don't be afraid to look in the mirror, but don't think that you have to. I think the main thing is that what RJ says this almost at least once every single time we talk. That line that you just said, right? You can only meet someone as deeply as you've met yourself, and I think that's huge because I think that it has definitely helped me frame things differently when I'm thinking about people who aren't as vulnerable or aren't as quick to be vulnerable as we are, I am, whatever that like might look like, and
Y'all too.
it can get really frustrating. But putting that frame of reference in mind, but also keeping in mind that like we all see it differently, we've all gone through it differently. So if someone's holding their cards closer, it's because there's a reason for that. And more often than not, it's if they're not ready to discover that, that's totally okay. Everyone does it at their own pace. And Neil, that's partly saying that for you,
Right.
because you're doing it at your own pace, man. And I think that's
Yeah.
great. The fact that you're doing it is, I think, the key takeaway here, right? Not what it looks like, not where you're at with it, but the fact
Yeah.
that you're doing it.
That's why what you said exactly rings true. It's okay to do it how you need to do it. So if it's crying in the shower, if it's smiling at the table, it's okay. Just as long as you know that you're okay.
Yep. We encourage you to ask questions. I think that's I wouldn't have started this journey if it wasn't for the fact that we've laughed about this, guys. Me just asking, "How are you?" and
Yeah.
and what
That's a
that leads to.
yeah. Makes
Um,
people cry.
yeah,
So
yeah, but like it is, we joke about it, right? But it's so true. Like I think we get so obviously it's very easy to get caught up with our lives. There's nothing wrong with that, right? We all have so much going on.
yeah.
But I think something as simple as just asking someone how they're doing, or
You
just
never
letting them
know.
know that you're here.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah,
know
you never know.
what waterfall you might bring on or not bring on, or sometimes that's
No.
all someone needs to hear, is to know that someone actually cares enough to ask.
I think it's your aura.
Yeah,
Amit
apparently.
just has that presence. So does RJ
I
sometimes.
have the
They
presence
just
of an
have to
onion. That's what you're telling me if I make everyone cry.
hey, whatever. I didn't say it like that. That's up to you. You have that presence. We'll ask Dhruv one day.
Yeah.
Shout out Dhruv.
He finally finished Ted Lasso, so proud of him. Shout out Dhruv. That man's gotten plenty of shout outs by now. We're gonna just keep going with it though. So I think with that, we close out the episode. Really appreciate you guys listening. Really appreciate RJ you coming on and giving us perspectives that you have. I always learn something from you, and I think I love that about our conversations because I always take away something new. Even if it's something you've said before, I definitely am able to take something away from it after that. So appreciate you coming on. We're probably going to have you on again because nobody else wants to come on this at some point. But kidding.
Yeah, we've actually got another episode lined up for you.
We
So
do. We do.
for all those people that loved RJ on this episode, you're gonna get to see her again.
Don't worry, there's
Yay.
more.
Yeah, thank you, wife.